Welcome to season 2 of F That, the perspective shift. If season 1 was about saying fuck that to trauma, this season is about asking, what if we've been seeing the world all wrong? Inspired by shows like Revisionist History, we're flipping the script on patriarchy, race, family, habits, and so much more. Because when you see the world differently, you move through it differently. This is where personal evolution meets cultural reckoning. Let's stop performing for the damn man and start thinking about ourselves. Are you ready? Let's get into it. Welcome back to F That. Oh my goodness. I am actually really excited to bring you guys this topic because this is not something that enough people talk about. And I feel like I say that with every single episode that I record, but really, who else is talking about the stuff the way that I do? Ain't nobody, okay? Today's episode is all about the biracial experience. And we're talking about how our identity doesn't have a box that people can put us in. And what I really want to talk about today is what it really actually means to be biracial and the struggle that a lot of biracial people feel of just existing. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about too briefly, just to acknowledge. There's a lot of privilege that comes with being biracial. I understand that the way that I look and the color of my hair and the texture of my hair and all of those things gets me in a lot of doors. Okay? I understand that. I recognize that. And I use that to my advantage to help bridge the gap between Black culture and white culture. Because why else was I put in a biracial body? The problem, though, is that because we are perceived, biracial people are perceived as exotic, envied, or beautiful, which we are, which I am. That seems to mean to the rest of the world that somehow that we do not have struggles of our own. And I'm here in this episode today to disrupt the myth that just because biracial people have a privilege and that we appear to be exotic and that we appear to be desirable to everybody else, that means that our lives are easy. And they're just not. And so I want to talk about that today because there's not enough perspective on the biracial experience. And who else is going to talk about it but me? Okay? All right. So let's first talk about my own personal story and the identity crisis it is that I have had to go through. I grew up with my mom is white and my father is Black. Plain clean cut. My mom is white, my daddy's Black. And my dad wasn't around. And there's a whole bunch of other things that go into this story that are not for this episode, but my dad wasn't around. I was born in South Carolina and my mom moved us back to New York City when I was 2.5 years old. And I lived in Queens, New York, rep, from the time that I was 2.5 until the time that I was 15. And because my father wasn't around, all people saw when I was growing up was this white woman who was raising me and no black dad. Where is that at, right? And so people were looking around like, are you adopted? Are you adopted? Well, people were saying, well, you don't look like your mom. And if I can take an objective step back and say that I do actually look like my mom. But it's difficult when your skin tones aren't the same, right? A little bit more difficult, okay? And I got a lot of questions, especially from kids my age, especially when I was about 7 years old. The kids were looking at me like, well, your mom is white and you're brown. There's no way that that is your mom. And this drudged up so much confusion in my life. Like, do I actually belong here with this person? And again, this was the 90s, okay? So there's no FaceTime, right? I don't know where my father exists at. I've talked to him on the phone, but the last time I saw him, I was like 2.5. I barely remember the man. And so I didn't know what he looked like. So I would literally accuse my mother of lying. I'd be like, you're lying. You're not really my mom. Because I talked to him on the phone, but that could have been anyone, right? Any Joe Schmo. I don't know what this man looked like. I don't know who he could be. And my mom, she would show me pictures. And it's important to note here, too, that if you're not familiar with any of my other podcast episodes, my mom is a narcissist, okay? I actually am no contact with her right now. And the level of narcissism that I had to deal with growing up was even more difficult. It made it so much harder to exist in a biracial body because not only do I have a white mother and a Black absent father, but now I have both of my parents are narcissists. So now both of them think the world of each other and don't really think anything of me. And so when I would say to my mom, well, you're not really my mom because you're white, she would go so far out of her way. She would show me pictures of her when she was pregnant with me and she would be like, look, this is me pregnant with you. And I'd be like, that could be anybody. That could be any child. How do I know that they didn't switch us in the hospital? And I understand that especially as now as a parent of 3 children. And if I'm being honest, most of my children do not look like me. I am simply a humble servant for my husband's clones. All I did was carry my husband's clones. I understand how hurtful that might have been to her, but it didn't discredit my own struggle of, I'm sitting around here not looking like my parents. Kids are out here questioning me, telling me I'm a liar. Do you know what it feels like to be 7 years old and be told that you're not really who you say you are and that you're a liar? Talk about an identity crisis at 7 years old. The hell? Do you know how hard that is to live through that? It's so incredibly difficult. It's so difficult. And so I acted out the most when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, because these kids were telling me I was adopted. I couldn't believe my mom. My father was nowhere to be found in a place that I could see him. We actually went to South Carolina for a family funeral when I was in 2nd grade, and I was supposed to see my father. And I waited at the edge of the driveway all day for him in Lancaster, South Carolina. And I waited for him and I waited for him and I waited for him. This was 1997. This was November of 1997. And I waited for him and I waited for him and he never showed up. And so you can imagine at that point too, oh my God, oh, the trauma. You can imagine at that point too what that did to me, because right now I'm knee deep in questioning who my mom is. I talked to my dad on the phone. He said he would be there to come say hi, to take us shopping, to do all of these things. And I wait for him all day outside and he never comes. Every single time, this is an empty road, right? This is the backwoods of South Carolina. Every time I see a car, I get excited because I knew that he was a used car dealer. So I never knew what kind of car he was going to show up in. And getting excited and then being let down, and getting excited and being let down. And it further deepened the divide between me and my mom, because I was like, well, now you saying that this guy's my dad, he don't even show up. How do I still know that this black man is really my dad? How do I know? How do I know that you're my mom? Okay. It was difficult. It wasn't easy at all. And it was completely unfair to me and unfair to my brother at the time too, whom I'm also no contact with. Okay. So that's kind of my personal story of growing up. Okay. There's so many other things that I've had to deal with being an adult, but we're kind of going to go through that as well. So let's also talk about something else that happens when it comes to being biracial. Is just because you're biracial, it doesn't mean you belong anywhere. Humans don't know what to do with you. Okay? Humans, we are binary creatures. We like to assign things a label, a role. We like to be able to say, I know what this is instinctively, so I can point to it, so that I can put it in my brain and in my mental Rolodex, so that I know what it is that I'm looking at. And biracial people do not fit into the construct that as humans we have created for ourselves. I have never been black enough for the black community, and I certainly am not white enough for the white community. Okay. And so many times, especially growing up in New York, people were like, are you Puerto Rican? Are you Dominican? People would come up to me and speak to me in Spanish. And I'd be like, I don't actually know anything. I'm so sorry. I had to teach myself to say, no habla español, because that was all I knew. But then when I got to like my teenage years, only the Dominican salons knew how to do my hair. If I went to a black salon, they were like, oh, well, we're going to straighten your hair with a hot comb. If I went to a white salon, they would cut off all my hair and not know what to do with it because it was curly and they didn't know what to do with it. It was ridiculous. I just felt like everywhere I turned, people didn't know what to do with me. And that's been the classic story of my life to begin with, just because of my intellectuality and my prowess and whatever it is. But being in a biracial body just added fuel to the fire. It just made it so much more difficult. And society, again, needs to assign you something. They need to say, this is what you are, so I can make sense of this in my mind. So this is what I'm going to make you to be. But I've never fit in any of those boxes. But society didn't know how to do that. So they've assigned me an identity instead of asking. Okay. And I want to talk so bluntly about the things that I have experienced, because you can't discount somebody's lived experience. You can't say, no, you didn't experience that. I mean, you can, but I'm going to tell you you're fucking wrong. Right? So a lot of the things that I have dealt with is the way that white women and black women alike project their insecurities onto me. My mother was jealous of me my entire life. She had what we call jungle fever. She is a white woman who loves her a colorful man, and she just wanted to procreate. to have children that looked like me. But my whole life, it felt very much like, ugh, you don't have to wear makeup because your skin can do that. Ugh, your hair is so pretty, you can just do whatever. But I was always walking around looking like a bag of ass because she didn't know what to do with my hair. And I always had this feeling of my mother was trying to compete with me. Now, I'm not saying that it's like that for white women, but my mother, again, was a narcissist and is a white woman. So she saw me as her competition. And white women have been some of my biggest supporters, but they've also been some of my biggest oppressors because they look at me and they think, well, you walk like a white person, you talk like a white person, you act like a white person, but you're not white and you get more attention than I do. And I don't like that. When I was running for Congress, the most hateful people towards me were white Democratic women. The most hateful. Did most of them apologize afterward? Yes, they did, but they were still fucking wrong and it hurt. Okay. So I dealt with a lot of issues on the white side. And I also dealt with Black women projecting their insecurities onto me as well. Because one thing we have to talk about is how I bridge the gap between white and Black people who historically do not like each other because of the way that white people have been oppressive. Okay. And so I have dealt with a lot of, like, my mother-in-law, she loves me. She loves me. She loves me. And now she's my mom, really. I've told my husband he doesn't have a mom anymore. She's mine. She embraces me. But I have dealt with so many Black women who have looked at me and either one, tried to just put me in the light-skinned Black woman box instead of respecting me when I say I am biracial, that is how I identify. I am neither white nor Black, and I'm not Hispanic either. But they'd be like, oh, you're just a light-skinned Black woman. And they want to lump me in with the struggle that they have felt of being a Black woman. I got asked when I got done running for Congress, what has been the struggle like being a Black woman running for Congress? And I was like, respectfully, I don't feel like that applies to me because I have light skin privilege. I do acknowledge that. I honor that. My skin tone gets me in more doors than a woman with darker skin. And I see that. But what she sees is I want what she has. And so I'm going to project my struggle onto her so that she knows this Jim Crow one-drop mindset way of thinking. And that's the problem that I've had is that Jim Crow law said if you were just even 1% Black, you were Black. And that was a way of thinking that white people pushed onto us. And as Black people try to come out of this conditioning, that is something that they still not have let go of yet. And so they still try to lump me in the box of, well, your daddy's Black, so you're Black. You're going to struggle with us because you're one of us. And it's like, but I'm not. And that's not to say that I don't want to be, and that's not to say that I don't have a place that I belong, but it's not in either of these people's struggles because by my parents procreating and making me, they created an entirely new realm of problems that I have to deal with. Because again, as humans, we are so binary in the way that we think. And so because people don't know what to do with me, I have a whole new set of problems because people don't know how to. But then they also just assume that because of how I look, that I have all of this privilege. And we have talked about the privilege that I do have, but being beautiful, being biracial, being light-skinned, being looking the way that I do does not exempt us from struggle, right? Because I've taught you what it meant for me to be in my struggle, what it meant for me to be like, I don't know where I belong because I don't know if this is really my mom. And my dad not being in the picture, logically, it didn't fit in my brain. I was like 7 years old and I'm like, the math isn't mathing. And so many people don't know what it feels like to go to school every day and to be told that you're adopted, not asked, assumed and told. When you're trying to believe your parents, when you're trying to understand them and to be told, this is not who you are. Do you know how fucking hard that is? It's so difficult. And as an adult, I feel like people ogle at me. They treat me like an exotic bird, like a zoo animal, right? Let's talk about the hair, right? Because we can also talk about my daughter. My daughter, I like to say that my children are even more mixed than I am because my husband, his father is Creole. And so the Creole people, when you look up the history of the Creole people, it's very difficult to trace their actual ancestry because they are completely mixed bloodline kind of thing, right? And so my husband is half Creole and his mother is Black. And so with me being biracial, I like to joke that my children are probably some of the most mixed kids that you'll find on the planet. However, my oldest daughter is a beautiful, like milk chocolate color. But she has the same, if not, I have like 3 C curls. Her curls are like 3B, 3A. And so people look at her too, like, what am I supposed to do with this? And she still has teachers who are like, I love her hair. It's so beautiful. And I'm like, you know, you have to ask her if you can touch her hair, right? And people still come to me when my hair is curly and when my hair is in braids. People are like, I love your hair. I love your hair. And they just like want to touch it and do that. And I'm like, have you not seen people who look like me with this kind of hair before? It is 2025. What are y'all doing? There's a lot of social fatigue that comes with that. In human design, we've talked about this. I am a projector, which means that my aura is penetrating. So when I am around people, I immediately see them and they know that I see them. So it is already difficult enough for me to exist in public because I'm feeling every single person's emotions around me at all times. And now looking the way that I look, this constant attention, even compliments, they feel like surveillance. They feel like people are always doing a double take. Ooh, who's she? Who's she? I don't always want to be the center of attention, okay? Listen, my moon is in Leo. I got it. I need a stage. However, there are times where I just want to blend in and I can't do that. There are times where I don't want to be seen and people still come up to me like, oh my God, I love your hair. Your family's so beautiful. My family is beautiful. They are outstanding. 10 out of 10. No notes. No notes. We are fantastic looking. But that doesn't mean I always want attention. And when you're a person who wants to step outside just to do one thing and come back in, it becomes very difficult. It becomes to the point where it's like, I don't even know if I want to go outside because I don't want people to stop me today. I have had my head down, hat on, headphones in, and people still have stopped me to talk about my hair, to talk about I love, you can do that, your skin tone, blah, blah, blah. I can't turn it off. I can't turn it off. And I think that so many people think that we dramatize or make dramatic what we're feeling. And it hurts because people love to say, well, you don't have it as hard as I do, therefore your feelings aren't valid. Or they think that because your struggle comes from a place of a certain level of privilege, that it's not a real struggle. Okay. And this is not to say that, well, somebody gave somebody $1 million, they didn't have a struggle. That person still got their own struggles. It's not the same as you. You envy where they are, and that's okay. Just say that out loud, but you can't deny that every single human out there has a struggle. And for so long, people have just seen biracial people as people who complain because there's nothing for you to complain about. You're pretty. Okay. You clearly don't know what it is that I've had to deal with. Right. And one of the other things that I really deal with is cultural misalignment, being at the intersection of white and black conflict. I see both sides of everything. I trigger the hell out of both sides all the time, because the universe dropped me into this biracial body. You think I'm not about to use it? You think that I'm not about to sit here and bridge that gap between white and black conflict? You think that I won't? I feel like, quite frankly, it would be a complete disservice if I did it. I feel like the only people that can bridge the gap between white and black folks are the mixed people. Who else y'all gonna listen to? Okay? And the thing is, though, is that because I understand the assignment that is on my life, I have to be honest about in the way that I show up, right? So my coaching, I coach white men, and I coach white men into how to decenter their power, because we all know that white men have too much power, and I coach them on how to decenter it because I have the privilege to be able to do so, right? I empower black women to charge their worth because I have the privilege to be able to do so, okay? My biracial body is here to be a bridge, not a battleground, but it looks like that when I'm asking people to shift their perspective on how they see me and on how they see the world. And this isn't something everybody can do. That's why it's got to be me. I'm okay with that. That's why I'm here. Bridging a gap and being a bridge also means stirring up and triggering both sides. That's just how it has to be. And nobody else can do that but me. But that doesn't still mean that I don't still struggle with how am I viewing this situation it is, right? Because I will listen to a voice note from my white male client, and then I will immediately have to, I don't want to say code switch, but I'll immediately have to reconfigure myself when I then go talk to a black woman that I have as a client. I can't coach them from the same place. I can and I can't, because I can see both sides, but I'm trying to show a white man, this is how you create for yourself without centering your power and your privilege. And for a black woman, it's like, this is how you stop trying to be everything to everyone, because that has been the burden of black women for so long. And this is how you create more money and wealth for yourself. But both of them are coming from the same place of the world taught me to be somebody and I have to be that person, but I'm tired of being what the world wants me to be. And who the world wants Black women to be is a completely different person than who the world wants a white man to be. And I have to bridge that gap from the understanding of both sides. And it is not easy to do that. It's very natural for me, but it doesn't make it easy to do that, okay? And so we've talked about my hair journey, how my mom didn't know how to care for it, how I look like a bag of ass all the time. God, I had those brushes for like white dolls. You know, the bristles were just like, they would touch my head and they would just lean because they couldn't handle. My scrunchies smelled like mold because I was always wetting my hair up and wetting my hair and then putting it up wet. And when we lived in New York City, like during the winters, my hair would be frozen on the way to school because again, nobody taught me how to do my hair. And I have turned so much of that pain and so much of that nobody knows what to do with me into an absolute, like, I cannot let my daughters carry that same legacy. Because again, my middle daughter, she's this beautiful milk chocolate colored. And my youngest daughter, she's about the same tone as me. They both have the same type of hair color. It's so intriguing. Genetics is fascinating. It's fascinating how I made these kids. It's like insane. It's so cool. But I don't play about their hair. But my 8-year-old daughter, she be wanting to wear her hair all the way out to the sun. And I'm like, okay, boo-boo, that's fine. As long as you know how to style your hair. And I stay on her about washing, drying, product, caring for her curls. We do braids. We do, we add hair in so that she can do whatever she wants. And I'm just like, you want to look like this? This has to be your choice, because it wasn't my choice as a child to look awful all the time. It wasn't my choice. And I am so adamant. And, part of a lot of how we parent does come from a place of trauma, right? It does. None of us are 100% healed. Am I better than I was when I first had kids? Absolutely. Is my third child getting way better parenting than my oldest child? Absolutely. I'm so sorry, my son. I love you so much. Mommy did the best that she could. But for them, it's about understanding their heritage too. It's about understanding that the world sees you looking a certain way, but it is your responsibility to say, no, actually, that's not how I identify, okay? Because the ask and the really important thing here is to respect people's biracial identity. The same way, the easiest parallel to draw here is to the trans community, right? The trans community is loud and they're proud and they're open about, please do not misgender us, okay? When the trans community is asking you to gender them properly, we go out of our way to make sure that we do, because that is respectful. It costs you $0 and 0 fucking cents to respect people the way that they are asking to be respected. And it is no different for biracial people. And it needs to be said that there is no disrespect that I have towards white people, and there is certainly no disrespect that I have towards Black people, but I am not either of you. I am something else entirely different, and I deserve the respect that comes with being identified the way that I have asked to be identified. Please do not, because white people don't have this problem. They just look at me like I'm an exotic bird. They are infatuated with me. But the struggle really comes with Black folks when I say I am biracial, and they look at me and say, no, you are a light-skinned Black woman. Cut that shit out. It is disrespectful to me and the way that I am asking to identify, because that is what my true heritage is. And I know that a lot of people try to say, well, why are you like siding with your white side? And people, oh my God, people love to be like, why do you hate half of yourself? Bitch, what is you talking about? Why do I hate half myself when I'm calling out white people and when I'm calling out Black people? I don't hate half of myself. Again, I have the privilege to be able to do both, but you have to respect what I am asking for. It is not within your rights to say, I see her as this, so I'm going to call her that. No, go up and say, how do you identify? How do you do that? Because when I was running for Congress and the writer, Maren Cogan, came down and did the piece on me from New York Magazine, she was so adamant that she made sure that the way that I identified was right there, because all people saw was a Black woman running for Congress against all these white people. And I was like, biracial, 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 biracial. You want change to happen, you have to be visible as the change. When I was growing up, the checkboxes on, for identity and like race or whatever, there was just Black and white. There was no 2 or more races, right? That box that exists now, 2 or more races, that did not exist in the 90s. And so even when I was 7, I'd be like, well, I'm not any of these. So I would click white or black. Now, here's where the privilege comes in. We're going to take a little sidetrack to where the privilege comes in. If I was trying to my mom was trying to get us into like a private school, I would check the white box. If I was trying to get financial aid of some type, I checked the black box. It's their fault for not putting 2 or more races on there. You told me I had to pick, so I picked. Okay. But now that more of this nuance exists in a public space, you must respect it. 2 or more races wasn't put on these identifiers for no reason. We exist. And biracial people are probably going to be more of the majority come like 2050. Okay. In my lifetime, people who look like me will be the majority of people. Respect what we're asking for. It's not hard. And if you're having a problem respecting people, we're going to get to that in a second about what you can do, because every single one of my podcast episodes come with actionable steps that you can take in order to be a better person, baby. Okay. But at the end of the day, the biggest ask here is please stop diminishing the struggles of biracial people because they don't feel as big to you. Because when you run around diminishing other people, you're telling them that you think that you're better than them. And when you've got a world full of people who don't feel like their problems are worthy enough, that's when you get a world full of angry people who don't trust each other. That's how you get a world full of people who don't like each other. And a world full of people who are competing with each other instead of coming together over a common problem and trying to come up with a solution. Stop assuming that privilege completely cancels out people's pain, because it doesn't. You've listened to what I had to struggle with. You could probably even hear the inflections in my voice and the tone of my voice as it changed as I went through what it felt like growing up like this. Please stop making us justify our existence, okay? I understand that at some point my soul signed a contract to come here. Okay, and that my soul signed a contract to have my specific parents. I don't know what kind of universal pot I was smoking, but I signed a contract and I came here and I chose that. However, that doesn't mean I have to justify why I am here. I certainly cannot justify from a collective consciousness standpoint why I chose a biracial body. Clearly, my consciousness loves the struggle, loves to be the person to help with the struggle. I don't get it. I have no idea why I chose this, okay? But do not make me justify my existence, okay? I don't ask you to justify yours. Leave me alone for mine. Respect mine the way that I respect yours, okay? And your problem, and I say this in the most aggressive, loving way, your problem with the box that you find yourself in is not my problem. Your inability to break out from the social constructs that people have put you in is not my problem. Just because I am proud and I have looked at these different boxes and these different ways of people trying to tell me who I'm supposed to be, and I've said, no, that's not for me. Just because you haven't done that for yourself yet does not mean that that becomes my problem, okay? Stop projecting your insecurities and your problems with different races onto people who seemingly bridge that gap. Lovingly. I love you so much. Stop doing shit like that, okay? So what can you do, right? Because again, I don't let you walk up out of here without you thinking and rethinking about the way that you do things, okay? I want you to check yourself. Check yourself before you wreck yourself, all right? Where have you belittled someone's identity struggle? Whether you're white or black, even if you're mixed, right? Where have you belittled their struggle? Because even a few weeks ago, I was called a colorist on Threads because I was telling the Threads, and this all started over the movie Sinners. Because I was talking about how the white people in the movie used the mixed race woman as a conduit to get to the black people. And I was trying to say that I understood what was happening. And then I ended up getting called a colorist because I don't identify as a black woman. It's just so fucking wild to me to be called a colorist because I don't identify as a black woman. I don't understand that, okay? Where have you belittled someone's identity struggle and just acted like, well, you don't deal with the same things that I do, so therefore your struggle isn't valid? Okay. And question 2, where have you dismissed someone's pain because it didn't look like yours? You don't look like everybody else. Why do you assume that their pain is the same as yours? You don't talk like everybody else. Why do you think that their pain should be the same as yours? You haven't reached your level of success the same way other people has, so why would your pain and struggle be the same? And why do you think that yours is more worthy and deserving than theirs is? This isn't a competition, and I know that patriarchy and capitalism have made you feel like it is, but baby, it is not. Mija, it is not. It's not, okay? Where have you been dismissive of other people just because their pain and their struggle wasn't enough for you? And why do you think that that matters? Why do you think that people should stoop to what you think is important? Why make other people feel bad because you're feeling bad about yourself? Okay. Action steps. What action steps can you take now when it comes to race? Ask people how they identify the same way you would any person who steps outside of the binary of gender. Ask them how they identify. Use that language. Go out of your way to use that language. Catch yourself when you are minimizing someone else's story. Be like, oh shit, my bad. I didn't realize I was doing that. Okay? And respect nuance. Teach people respect for nuance. Okay? Nothing is black and white. Nothing has ever been black and white. This world is full of gray area and nuance and things that can be molded and shaped and changed. Okay? Respect that and see nuance everywhere it is that you can look. Biracial people are not a trend. We are not a sideshow. We are not exotic birds for you to pet and look at. We have struggles. We have things that we deal with. We are a people with truth, with an identity. We have every right to be respected in the way that we ask to be respected. Okay. So if you enjoyed this episode, I really invite you to share this with someone who needs to hear it. Okay. And if you feel seen, send me a DM. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for listening to this episode and hearing what it is that I have to say from my heart always, always. And I'm really excited for the next episode. I'm not going to tease it yet because it's just coming into my brain today, but I'm excited to see you on the next one. Hey, if you enjoyed the show, make sure to leave a review or a rating for us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you're interested in joining any of my programs, you can find more information at thefccoach.com, and you can follow me on Threads and Instagram at LexiPCoaching. See you over there.